Have you ever wondered, how can you use biblical principles to solve real world issues in your marriage or your relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to talk about that and much more here on this episode of Couples Pursuit Live.
Couples Pursuit.
Hello, this is Vincent.
And Valerie
Woodard. So in this first video, we want to discuss how to handle conflict through communication.
Yes.
Baby, this is the big one. This is the one we get the most, as far as like the most requested thing to discuss.
Right.
And
the biggest
for us to
problem.
help them with.
Right.
Is communication.
It
Can you
is.
explain that? I mean, I know you did a great job of it, but just wrap it up again.
Okay, well, I'll take it from another angle this time. First of all, there is communication. People say they have a, what is the biggest problem in your marriage?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the responses were, the majority of the responses were communication. Well, the issue is that it's not necessarily communication, but it's ineffective communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order for communication to be effective, you have to have a listener, a speaker, and you have to, the definition of communication is the exchange of information for the purpose of understanding, but not just for understanding. That's why I say you have a listener and you have a speaker. So when one person is speaking, the other person is listening, not thinking about what they're going to say in response, but receiving the information, processing that information, and then, if necessary, repeating that information to the person that has said it to them so that there's no misunderstanding about what's being conveyed during this conversation. Because with us specifically, there was often a lot of misconstrued interpretation of what I was saying to him, what he was saying to me, because we were oftentimes not listening to one another only, but also reading one another's body language, the tone, the intent, all of those things take a toll. So
that is good. That is good. So talk to them. In that process, we found what we call the 5 marriage mandates, and talk to them how communication, like how did that just come out to be one of the mandates? Why do we put that in there for as far as communication? And in our own personal reference, like you talked about a little bit of the struggle that we had, but how do we just come with the part where, you know what, communication has to be one of the 5?
Well, when you speak about one of the 5, for those who have not heard before, we have rebuilt our marriage based on biblical principles that we have hewn down into 5 mandates. And the first one is covenant, and the second one is communication. The third one is connection, and then we have calibration, and then that was the 5th one.
So what?
There's another.
Covenant. Did we say covenant?
Right, covenant. Connection.
Connection. Communication.
Calibration. And what is the 5th one? This is going to be a blooper reel. Anyway, there's a 5th one, and it's going to come to us in probably about the next 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
But communication is key, because you can feel a thing, sense a thing, think a thing, but if I don't tell you what that thing is, you have to make up your own ideas about what I feel, think, or believe, or you may assume that I agree with what you feel, think, or believe.
That's true.
And there's more than one way to do a thing correctly. And so his way of doing things, my way of doing things, as a couple, we have to come together and mesh those two.
Yes.
And so communication.
The 5 marriage mandates are covenant.
Yes.
Commitment. Communication. Connection. And calibration. Yes.
Yes. Which also leads to recalibration. But you'll find out all about that. If you haven't before, there are videos on that. There's a masterclass on that. But those are the cornerstones to us maintaining a healthy, thriving marriage. And communication has to be one of those.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. So,
okay.
Yeah. So this next part, we want to explain effective communication strategies to help people that are might be in the midst of a conflict in your marriage. You might feel the draw to be like, I need help in this area. Like, please throw me a lifeline. Give me some some strategies to improve upon. So we're going to, help. Hopefully, we know that this part will help you. And the first one we want to give you is, first of all, the power of active listening.
Yes.
Learn how to. It is hard to process what your spouse is saying to you when you're processing another thought. When you are working on and construing and breaking down what you're going to say to your partner, to your spouse, before they even had a chance to, express what they were feeling, what they wanted to say, what they wanted to convey. Active listening involves really listening, taking in the information that your spouse gives you, and processing that first before you come to any other kind of decision or even an answer. So active listening is one strategy. What do you think about that, baby?
I think it's an excellent point, because one thing that has happened with us is now when I say I want to talk to you or I need to tell you something, you give me your full attention. And what I mean by that is what I mentioned earlier. You will put your phone down, or you will turn your body towards me. You will let your eyes meet mine. I can see you nod your head. Instead of continuing to, okay, I hear you. All right. Well, I don't know about that, but, and I feel the result is that I feel heard.
Yes.
I sense that you are listening to me. You do what I spoke of earlier, and sometimes ask for questions or reiterate what I've said, so that you can get an understanding. And that goes a long way in saving us disagreements and rehashing things, and causing there to be an emotional rift between us. Yeah,
that is good. And that takes us to our next point. You said this sometimes, baby, and it took me years to get the fact that when we're having a conflict, having a discussion about something, respect shouldn't be an option for me when we are talking. Especially when if you still argue, if people still get to the point where they're arguing and trying to force a point home or whatever, and you don't respect your spouse. What I mean by that, like, you talk over them, you belittle them, you talk like, well, that's crazy. Ain't nobody think that. I don't understand why you feel that way. That's crazy to feel that way. Or I ain't gotta listen to you. You don't you start not giving them the respect that they deserve.
Or another way to do that is just to ignore, not to say anything, not to respond at all, or to just kind of shrug your shoulders, whatever, or whatever you say. Yeah, okay. You say one thing, but you're really saying something else. My words are saying agreement, but my tone and my body language is like, get out of my face. I don't want to hear that. That's disrespectful, to belittle the person and to undermine what they're saying. Even if that person is not assertive and will call you on it, it is still damaging to the relationship, because it does something to them internally that they may not express externally, but eventually it's going to come out.
Exactly. I love in Proverbs and 15:1, it says, a gentle answer turns away wrath.
Yes.
But a harsh word stirs up anger.
Yes.
Strife.
Yeah.
That principle, that's where we get the biblical principles and perspectives that we teach from. It is so important to understand that the Bible is here to edify you, so to build up you, to make you stronger, so you can, make your community. Your community starts in your home. Your community starts with your marriage. If you can be built up, you can build your spouse up, and vice versa. Yes. And then y'all can build up your family, and it goes on and on. So that's why we lean on the Bible. I mean, you take it away, I fall. I lean on it.
Right.
So that is so good. That is so good. I want to continue this, baby. It's so good. I want to talk about rekindling love and connection. Why is it important to keep the connection, like to work on keeping the connection in your marriage?
Well, I think we take for granted how much importance connection has. I like to say that connection is the forerunner to communication, because without connection, without the intimacy in intellect, intimacy in the physical and the touching and the emotional, if I don't feel connected to you in those ways, you can say words to me, you can communicate a thought or a desire to me, but it may not carry any weight if I'm not either emotionally, intimately, or intellectually connected to you.
Yes.
There's a difference in someone. I use an example in one of in a conference that we did recently. If I were to go up to a person and say, "Let me get the keys to your car," depending upon the person, I would get a varied response. If I said it to my husband, it'd be one thing. My daughters, my son might be like, I'm
gonna
what you need, mama? But if it were someone that I didn't know or someone that I didn't know well, I didn't have a connection to. If it were a new acquaintance versus a friend that I've had for a long time friend, I'm gonna get a different response because I haven't built relationship. I don't have connection with them. So I'm communicating what I need, but I'm not going to get the response that I need if that person is not connected to me.
That is so good. That is so good. Connection is what you were made for and by. When God spoke, when he put Adam to sleep, and then he took the rib out of Adam, and then he brought the woman to Adam. He said, "Whoa, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." What does that mean? That means that he recognizes that she came out of him. They were connected. And as you know, we say that, blood is thicker than water, or you say a phrase like that. Like our relatives, we're going to ride or die for our relatives. We're going to ride or die for those of the blood that are close to us. Well, in the Bible, it keeps that same thing going. Not so much that I'm going to do anything foolish, but my wife, she is from me. She is my blood. It's a scripture that talks about it in I think First Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 5:1. Let me pull that up right quick.
Now, of course, when he says I'm his blood, he doesn't mean literally. We do not have the same blood. We are not related, but he'll explain what he means by that. We are connected. And when Adam saw Eve, he felt the connection. He had never seen a woman before. She didn't look like him other than being a Homo sapien, other than being a human person. She was made very different, softer, different body parts, curvature, and all those different things. But he felt, wow, she belongs to me. Exactly. I belong to her. We are connected. Yeah.
Yes, and it's wait a second. I gotta be more smoother with this.
So it's very important that if someone you're trying to share information with is aware of you, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. Now, we're talking about a romantic relationship right now. We're talking about marriage, because some of those things will change based on the relationship that you're talking about. But these principles work in all types of relationships. If you communicate effectively, you're going to have a better outcome. But in a marital relationship, if the person feels connected to you, they're going to feel more comfortable telling you things that are, might be a little vulnerable, might make them feel vulnerable, may make them things that, have occurred that may have made them feel ashamed or doubtful. If they don't feel a connection to you, that you have their best interest at heart, that you're going to care for their feelings, and that you're going to regard them and honor them, in the presence of that conversation, they're likely not going to share with you. So this is why I say again that communication is important, but it also has to be accompanied with connection.
That's right. And it was I gotta find the one in Second Chronicles, not Corinthians. In 2 Samuel 2:5, it said, all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "We are your own flesh and blood. And then there's another translation that says that we are your bone and we are your flesh. That's saying that we are related. That means look out for us. We're related to you.
Right. We're connected to you. Mm-hmm. We have something in common. We have a similar interest.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so the third part we want to talk about, and we want to talk some more about this so we can flush it out some more, is financial harmony through calibration. Like sometimes one of the issues after they don't talk about communication, I was about to say after we get past communication, but after we don't talk about it, another thing that we don't talk about, we don't discuss fully, is finance.
Oh yeah.
And we feel this like this taboo to discuss finances with our spouse. Like she shouldn't know our money, and I shouldn't be in her pocketbook. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I can remember a conversation that our daughter had with us, the baby girl, when she was little, and we were talking about accounts and separate accounts and different things like that. And she had a very interesting take on it. And we had the discussion about how it's okay for a husband and wife to have a separate account, but they should always have a joint account that they share, that they should not have separate, like hidden or private accounts. But it's fine for us to have an account that we, keep our savings in, like personal goal type items, to purchase, personal items or, gifts for the family, for the children, for the other person that you may not want that person to know. Oh, I bought this gift. There's a purchase from Amazon, and I wonder if that's my birthday gift, or, there's nothing wrong with having the separate accounts. But what's really behind it all is a mindset.
Yes.
Have you become one? Are you becoming one? Is it really what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine? Or is it what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine? Yes. And sometimes ladies like to tout that, what's mine is mine and what's his is mine. But what's yours is not his? No. There's a responsibility that both spouses have in a relationship. There's a responsibility for both in every area of the relationship, including financially. For the woman, it may very well be that she is the larger breadwinner. The husband is most often the bigger breadwinner, and that's fine. But sometimes it's the one spouse or the other who takes care of financial responsibilities. And doing that should not be secretive. It should not be manipulative, and it should not be abusive, because abuse comes in the way of finance as well. If I take what's ours and I misuse it and I spend it in such a way, or I hide things from you, that is an abuse and abnormal use of our joint income, whether I make the majority of it or I don't, in which case I don't right now. But it's not fair to him for me to take and manipulate those funds, even if he never knows what I'm doing. It's still dishonest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's sometimes we withhold things and we use money as a tool, as a weapon.
This is true.
And the Bible speaks in the form of the love of money. We use because we covet the money and we don't want to give. It's like you don't want to bless your spouse, or you covet the money more than you covet the relationship with your spouse. It's like, nah, she can't get my money. She can't do. And I'm like, okay, well, what about the relationship with your spouse? Well, are you working on that part so you will feel, free to be able to say, baby, I trust you with my money. Let's work on that part. I'm not saying like, okay, she can go spend it all and you can just keep throwing it away. I'm saying let's talk about money. I trust you with
the money that I earned.
And I want to trust you.
Right.
I want to work at that.
Yeah.
1 Timothy 6, it talks about, for the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money, not money itself, the love of money. And I think the NIV version says it's the root of all kinds of evil. That everything can be traced back to that love, that desire.
The greed.
The greed
the
for
coveting of it, yes.
And when you use money as a weapon in your relationship, Oh, and what I mean by that is that by not giving it to your spouse or not sharing it with your spouse, that you're hurting them, and not talking about it, not discussing it with them, because you be like, well, she just can't have my money. She ain't gonna do right. Well, not talking with them, that's kind of using it as a weapon. So feel free to talk about money and discuss some things that you have concerns about. Consult those things. You looked at your credit card statement, and an unexpected bill, like my wife spoke about earlier, that we don't want those. We don't want to see, wow, so you spent $700 on what?
And see, there's another point. I think that even if you have a joint account, and even if you have excess money, right? He and I don't make large purchases without talking to each other.
That's right.
Anymore. Right. We don't make large purchases without.
Until you do one thing.
Yeah, without discussing it, because who knows? What if both of you do that at the same time, and you feel like, well, I put more money in than you did, so I should be able to take out a larger amount. Well, then your mindset is not one of unity. If your spouse has issues with money, if they don't do well with balancing the checkbook, there are those of you who still use checkbooks and balance a checkbook, they don't do well with that, guess what? That's a task. You need to sit down. That's part of the better of work, or for worse, you need to sit down, discuss that, figure that out. If one person is better with handling the finances than the other, then let that person handle it. But also remember, for the person who is not better at it, you still need to have knowledge of that, because we never know what's going to happen. And if that spouse, for some reason, is incapacitated, if they died, unfortunately, you would have the responsibility of carrying out those responsibilities. And if you're not able to do it, then that could be detrimental to your family. It could be detrimental to you if you are a widow and you don't know how to handle things. So it's important that we relate and we communicate to one another about everything, and don't use money to fight with one another.
That is so true.
Yeah.
So hopefully some of these strategies you can take home with you and apply it. We talked about, first of all, how to handle conflict through communication. We listed some ways of how to do active listening, the power of active listening, and how that can smooth over a lot of things by just paying attention and listening before you respond back. We talked about the importance of mutual respect, especially in those times if you still argue, you still going through that rough patch of trying to figure out how not to argue all the time and disagree to the point of y'all just can't even talk about it anymore. Like, having mutual respect when those little hiccups can come. And not letting that be an option, like I did. I make the mistake, like I did. Being respectful.
Letting your anger be the excuse to be disrespectful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we talked about also rekindling love and connection, and to make sure that it's a work thing. It's something you should strive, and we want to stay connected, because it can drift apart if you let it. It can float apart if you let it. We mentioned ways to the importance of honoring the fact that connection is the precursor,
forerunner, yes,
of communication. And knowing that you have to actively seek and desire for your marriage to not only just survive, but to thrive. And the last part we talked about was financial harmony through calibration. Having those money talk issues, being able to discuss, be able to feel open about how we're going to handle bank accounts, savings accounts, how we're going to handle savings.
Yeah. And I want to say, we mentioned through calibration, but what we mean is by setting a standard and not leaving that standard, or that, what is the technical term you call?
A center of spec.
A center of spec. So you need to stay within a certain range in the way that you handle your finances. And so when you do that, you'll know if one person gets off or the other person gets off. Okay, we got to come back to the center of spec. We got to come back to the specific way that we have decided to handle it. And if for some reason you need to make changes, then you come to the table and you discuss it, and then you recalibrate and you say, okay, that worked for us in year 1 through 7, but now we have 2 children and we have these responsibilities. We've changed jobs, and let's do things this way.
Yeah.
Agree upon that and then go forward. Don't just make up your own mind of what you're going to do based on how you feel.
We talked about going out to eat. You go out to eat because I don't like to cook, you don't like to cook, but now we have children. And now we have responsibilities at home. Maybe a grandchild, whatever, and we both really can't afford to both go out to eat.
Or it's just a waste.
It's a waste.
A waste of money. You're spending as much on the mortgage or the car payment as you are on your food bill.
But have those conversations with you. That's what the financial harmony is. It's what you both agree upon.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully this has helped you. And if you think this can provide value with someone else, I urge you to please share it with them. And you can learn more about us. You can go to our website at couplespursuit.com. And for all our social media links and also some free resources for you, you can go to couplespursuit.com/links. And that'll just take you all things Couples Pursuit.
Yes.
So take us out, baby.
Well, I just want to say thank you again for joining us as well. We hope that you will come back. We hope that you learn something that you can take with you and keep with you. And as always, we pray that the Lord will bless you, keep you, make his face shine upon you, that he will be gracious to you, lift up his countenance towards you, and give you peace. Until next time, we'll see you again here on Couples Pursuit Live.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Couples Pursuit Live. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one we think you'll like.